Hello again, everyone. In my effort to create the perfect Pac-Man clone, I wanted to determine how fast Pac-Man moves and copy that motion precisely. My first attempt was to give him a value representing speed in pixels per second and multiplying that speed by the time delta between frames of the game. It got me close, but something was not quite right. I soon found out that that's not how a lot of these old games did things. So just a note before I get into some of the math here, for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to ignore the fact that when Pac-Man eats a pellet, he pauses for a frame. So I'll just look at open maze speed, where he's not hindered by any obstacles. So there are a number of speeds Pac-Man travels, and they are determined by the level and whether or not he's energized. So let's start with level 1. This is the easiest to calculate. I'll zoom in close on him here and clear a path. And now if we go frame by frame, we can see that Pac-Man moves at 1 frame per second consistently. So doing the math here, it just comes out to obviously 60 pixels per second, since each frame comes in at a 60th of a second, and he moves 1 pixel per frame. So things get a little different on levels 2 through 4. Pac-Man's slightly faster than level 1, and there's frames where he appears to skip a pixel. So about every frame you'll see him jump like that, or every 8 frames you'll see him jump. So that was 1 right there. So if we count out more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you can see he jumped the width of this pellet, which is 2 pixels. So every 8 frames he moves 2 pixels. So now let's take a look at levels 5 through 20. And this is when Pac-Man is at his fastest. He'll skip a pixel every 4 frames. So he just skipped 1 there. If we count them out, 1, 2, 3, 4, he skips on the 4th again. Now I can average those speeds out and get pretty close to what the actual game does, but I wanted pixel perfect reverse engineering, and this type of game demands it. And my method of multiplying velocity by time delta between frames was not skipping the right pixels in that pattern. And the effect of that is the ghosts will respond differently than what's happening in the actual game. So what exactly was telling Pac-Man to move the way he was? Well, it turns out that Pac-Man and the ghost speeds are defined by a series of 32-digit bit patterns representing 16 frames of movement. I'll explain. On level 1, Pac-Man's speed control bit string looks like this. To translate this bit string into movement, there is a pointer to a location in it, and the bit value at this pointer tells Pac-Man how many pixels to move. So on my first frame of the game, my pointer is at location 0. So does this mean Pac-Man's speed is 0? Well, no, we saw, this is again level 1, we saw that he moved 1 pixel per frame. So obviously there's a little bit more to it. And what happens is that Pac-Man's position gets updated twice per frame. So the pointer not only looks at location 0, but it then subsequently looks at location 1, so it looks at both of those digits. There's a few other things that happen between here, like collision detection and such. So, but for all intents and purposes, it basically adds 2 adjacent digits in the bit string. So the effect that this has is that it gives our game subframe pixel accuracy. So even if Pac-Man moved 2 pixels in one frame, we still check to see if he hit something at this first pixel. Now when the next frame begins, the speed control pointer will be at location 2, and it will look at 3 in that same frame, and so on, 2 by 2, until it reaches the end of the bit string, and then it will cycle back around to the front. This is the bit control string for levels 2 through 4. If you recall, on those levels, Pac-Man skips a pixel every 8th frame. So according to this speed control bit pattern, Pac-Man should move 2 pixels in the first frame, and then subsequently he'll move 1 for the next 7 frames, and then on the 8th frame again, we'll see that he moves 2 pixels in 1 frame. Now this might look like he's moving 2 pixels in the frame, but these are actually being split by the pointer. So we'll look here, 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 oops, here. So you can see that those 2 adjacent ones actually get split between frames. So let's do the math on this while we have it up here. And the way to do this is to count up the ones in this bit string. And this, the goal here is to figure out how many pixels per second Pac-Man is moving. So if we count them up, it will come out to 18 ones. So what that means is that we take 18 divided by 16, because remember this string represents 16 frames of gameplay, and then we'll multiply that by 60 for 60 frames per second. And that gives us an answer of 67.5 pixels per second. Alright, and then let's look at levels 5 through 20. Again, this is when Pac-Man is moving his fastest that he'll ever move in the game. And same as last time, if we count up the ones in this bit string, we'll find that there are 20. So doing the math is 20 divided by 16 times 60. And that tells us that he moves at 75 pixels per second. Then after level 20, Pac-Man slows back down to his levels 2 through 4 speeds, which ratchets up the difficulty of the gameplay at that point, since the ghosts don't actually slow down. And when energized, Pac-Man moves a touch faster. In level 1, he takes on the same speed as he does when he's in a normal mode in levels 2 through 4. So he'll move at 67.5 pixels per second when energized on level 1. And then on levels 2 through 4, he moves at a different speed we haven't calculated yet. I won't put the bit string up for that, but there's 19 ones in it. So doing the math on that, come up with 71.25 pixels per second, and that's for when he's energized on levels 2 through 4. And then levels 5 through 20, and actually the rest of the game, he doesn't get any faster when he is energized, if it's even applicable. So I'm not really sure if the actual Pac-Man game does it like this, but it seems to do something similar, and this gave me the best results in replicating the game mechanics. Alright, that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching.